Om Agajanana Patmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Okay, so we'll just do a quick review of what we learned. Deepa, can you do what we learned last time? No, Deepa,
Yeah. Yeah. Give me 1 minute here. I'm trying to look. So you want me to repeat all the stanza, right? That we went through
from
last.
Shuklam
Okay.
Bharadaram till we stopped just before Bhishma Vacha, right? Till that point.
Okay. Shuklambaradram Vishnum Sashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashante Yasya Drivida
Dvirada.
Divirada Vakratya
Mute. You good. Bhaktradhyaf.
Vakradhyaf Parisadhya Parasatham Vignam Nignanti Satatham Vishwakshenam Tamashraye Vyasam Vasishtana Taram Sakte Pautrama Kalmasham Parasaratmajam Vande Sukatam Taponidim Sukatatam Taponidim Vyasyaya Vishnu Rupaya Vyasrupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahma Nitaye Vasisthaya Namo Namaha Avikraya Suddhaya Nityaya Paramatmane Sadaika Rupa Rupaya Vishnave Sarva Jishnave.
The first word, yes. Avikaraya. First word.
Oh, Avikaraya. Okay. Yasya Smarana Matrena Janma Samsara Bandhanat Vimukyate Namastasmai Vishnave Prabha Vishnave Om Namo Vishnave Prabha Vishnave Sri Vaishampanaya Uvacha
Vaishampayana Uvacha
Sri Vaishampayana Uvacha Shrutva Dharmana Se Sena Pavanani Cha Sarvasha Yudhishthirau Santanavam Punarevabhya Bhashata.
The first line, Pavanani.
Okay, Pavanani cha Sarvasha.
Sarvashaha.
Oh yeah, Sarvashaha. Yudhishthira uvacha kimekam daivatam loke kim vapyekam parayanam stuvanta kamarkantaf prapnyu
Manava Shubham.
Okay, prapnur manava shubham. Ko dharma sarva dharmanam bhavata paramo matha kim japam mukyate jantur janmas samsara bandhanat.
Samsara bandhanat.
Janma samsara bandhanat.
Yeah, I mean, Deepa, on the first line, right? Like the first line of that, right? That dharmaha, and there is an is, right? We have to put the joining letter, right? I was telling. So, ko dharma sarva dharmanam bhavatah paramo matah.
Ko dharmas, and the joining is really hard, Rajesh.
No, but do you you're following Tamil or English? Which you're following
English.
Sanskrit? English.
Na Sanskrit na actually, I'm trying to do English. So
yeah,
that's
see,
why
English, right? The problem is you won't know where the visargas are.
Okay.
That's the problem. I don't know, Kritika, like in your Tamil, is the visarga showing up, or do they have some indication of where the visarga is?
There is an indication of the dharma, double column will be there.
Yeah, so that indicates that there is a
I
visarga
have
there.
added SH.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I added SH.
Deepa, then I would recommend English. The problem is you will not know where the visargas are. So like
Okay.
the paramo mataha, right? There is a visarga which is coming at the end. So
Okay.
so you'll have to kind of know where it is so you can put the joining letter. Otherwise,
Okay.
you'll have to
Got it.
manually,
Do it.
I think in
Write it
English they
down.
just put a H, right? And
Yeah.
then they put H for everything, all visargas.
They have H and dot actually, Rajesh. There's
Yeah, that's
something
the problem.
about.
You have that H is that is their indication of a visarga. So you have to
Oh,
then replace it. Like
okay.
ko dharmas sarva dharmanam bhavatah paramo
Paramo.
mataha.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So
I'll try to follow
yeah,
Tamil maybe
yeah.
next
Fine.
time.
Do
Yeah.
fix it. Otherwise, you might have to switch to Sanskrit or Tamil, one of
Yeah.
them.
Sure. I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue from here. So the first we'll pick 4 students. We'll do 2 for a first half and 2 for the next half. So Raj, you can be student for the one first, and then Radhagar, you can be a student. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So we stopped at the Bhishma Vacha portion, right? So we'll get that. Okay. Shri Bhishma Uvacha Jagatprabhum Devadevam Anantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purushas Satatothitah. So we saw in the previous class, we saw about the questions that Yudhishthira had asked, right? So like we said, everything in our scriptures and all Puranas, it always starts with questions. So Yudhishthira asked 6 questions, which we saw. So he said, first he said was just a reminder. He said, who is the greatest or the highest of divinity? Because there are so many gods, goddess. Who is the highest of divinity? He asked. Second, he says, if I have to completely surrender and put, and take refuge or shelter under somebody, who is that person? One person under whom I can take full refuge. That was the second one. Third, he said, if a person has to attain auspiciousness, peace, and prosperity and everything, who is that one person who he has to glorify or praise? That was one. Fourth is, who should I worship? Then he said, which is the greatest of all the dharmas that one can follow? And the last question was, Janma Samsara Bandhanat. If I have to get rid of this bondage of life and death and this constant cycle of birth and death, what should I do? Or whose japam should I do? Those are the 6 questions he asked. So if somebody comes and asks you questions and then you say, okay, let me start explaining, and then you give a 1 hour lecture, the person is going to walk and go, right? He's immediately going to lose interest. So in all these Puranas, what the person who's answering has to do is he has to very quickly give a 1-line answer. So I'm answering your question right away. And then says, if you want more details, let me give you more details. That's how all of these things work, including Devi Mahatmya, Bhagavatam, everything works that way, right? So because that way you immediately answering the question. So here also what Bhishma does is, over a set of stanzas, he's going to quickly answer Yudhishthira's questions. So he gets a 1-line answer, and then he says, okay, let me now give you a detailed answer. Because Yudhishthira now goes and asks, okay, I want to know more. Because the person also who's hearing has to have interest, right? So he goes and he doesn't necessarily go in the order of the questions. So first he says, he answers the question number 3 is, who should I praise? Who should I glorify? So for that he says, the Jagat Prabhum. So this person who is the Lord of the entire Jagat, of the entire world. Deva Devam, even for the gods and the demigods, he is the highest. He is the God of the gods, right? And Anantam, Anantam means infinite. The person is there everywhere. There is no beginning, there is no end. The person is there everywhere. And then Anandam Purushottamam. So the word Purusha doesn't mean it's male. Purusha just means the person who leads. It can even be a female, it can be a male. So amongst all the Purushas, which are the male or the female, he is the Uttamam. He is the highest of the leaders amongst everybody who can lead. So he doesn't even tell who the person is. He says these are the attributes of the person, right? So he says this is the highest of this. And Stuvan Nama Sahasrena. And by constantly praising him, by glorifying him, the 1,000 names of that person, you will get auspiciousness, you will get peace and prosperity. So that is the first, he's answering the question number 3 there. So Shri Bhishma Vacha Jagat Prabhum Deva Devam Anantam, if you want to break it, Anantam Purushottamam Stuvan Nama Sahasrena Purushaha. So you have to put that is to join, Purushas Satatothitaha. So that word will be together. Shri Bhishma Uvacha Jagat-prabhum Devadevam Anantam Purushottamam Stuvan Nama Sahasrena Purushas
Okay, shall I do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Raj.
Okay, Sri Bhishma Uvacha Jagat Prabhum Deva Devamanantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purushas Satatottitaha Jagat Prabhum Deva Devamanantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purushas Satatottitaha
Sri Bhishmovacha Jagatkrupam Devadevamanantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purushas Satatostitaha. Sri Bhishmovacha Jagatprabhum Devadevamanantam Purushottamam Stuvannama Sahasrena Purushas Satatostitaha.
Okay, next one. तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्तमेव च. So now he's answering the next question. Who should I worship? Right? So here he says the same person who I described before, the same person whose 1,000 names you have to praise, you have to worship that person only constantly with complete devotion. So that person who's always there, and charchayan, who you worship, you praise that person nityam, every day, not just when you need it. You have to worship this person constantly every day, and only by constantly dhyayan, by meditating on that person, and then by what you call prostrating to the person and praising to that person. That is one best way for you to, that is a way of worshipping, because worshipping could be you can meditate that person, you can praise on that person, you can do namaskaram to that person. So whatever way of thing, you do it every day to this one person, and that is the way you can actually attain this auspiciousness. So tameva charchayan nityam bhaktya purusham avyayam. If you want to break it, purusham avyayam dhyayan stuvan namasyamscha. So ish and the cha, namasyamscha yajamanas tameva cha. So yajamanaha just doesn't mean is the yajamana, doesn't which loosely used as a yajamana means as like a big person in a village. Yajamana just means the person who's offering it, who's doing this, the person who's aspiring for it. That's the reference here. So whoever that may be, whoever does this will get the benefit. तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्तमेव च.
Okay. Tameva charchayan nityam bhaktya purushamavyayam ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्tameva च. तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यंश्च यजमानस्तमेव च.
तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यञ्च यजमानस्तमेव च. तमेव चार्चयन् नित्यं भक्त्या पुरुषमव्ययं ध्यायन् स्तुवन् नमस्यञ्च यजमानस्तमेव च.
अनादिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन् नित्यं सर्वदुःखादिको भवेत्. So the next, the fifth, which is the ko-dharma, which is the greatest of dharma, and then kim japan muchyate, which japam I do to get rid of some janma samsara bandhanat. He answers over a set of stanzas here. So he says, this Vishnu, who is the person who I'm talking about, has, this is Bhishma saying, right, has no beginning or no end. He is the Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. Maheshwaram means Maha Ishwara. He is the greatest of all the of all the gods of everybody. Is among the entire world. He is the greatest. And then this person Stuvan Nityam. You chant this Sahasranamam, which I'm going to say Nityam. Again, he continues with that. You do this everything. All your Sarva Dukkha, all your sorrows and everything will go, and that is a way for you to get out of this rut of birth and death. This is the simplest way, he says, to chant the Sahasranamam here. So Anadhi Nidhanam Vishnum Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Lokadhyaksham Stuvan Nityam Sarva Dukkhatiko Bhavet. This word you cannot break it because Dukkha Adi Go Bhavet, multiple words comes. So Sarva Dukkhatiko Go Bhavet. Let's say it together. Anadinidanam Vishnum Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Lokadhyaksham Stuvan Nityam Sarva Dukkhatiko Bhavet.
अनादिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन् नित्यं सर्वदुःखातिगो भवेत् अनादिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन् नित्यं सर्वदुःखातिगो भवेत्
अनाधिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन्नित्यं सर्वदुःखातिगो भवेत् अनाधिनिधनं विष्णुं सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं लोकाध्यक्षं स्तुवन्नित्यं सर्वदुःखातिगो भवेत्.
Canto 7. ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनं लोकनाथं महद्भूतं सर्वभूतभवोद्भवम्. So for a while he doesn't tell who the person is, okay, because he's going to tell who that person is only later. He's just describing the characteristics of the person still. So he says this person who I'm talking about is Brahmanyam. So he's like, even Brahma always resorts to him for everything. And that when you go look at, how the creation happens and what Brahma does and everything, anytime Brahma has a problem, he always goes and meditates on the Lord, because that is the only way even for Brahma to get answer. So he's a helper, he helps Brahma out. Then Sarva Dharmagyam, so he knows all the dharmas, right? He knows what is right, what is not right. He's a knower of everything. And then he is the Kirti Vardhanam. So anyone who's friends with him or whoever worships him, he always uplifts the fame of everybody who actually does that. And then he's the Mahat, he's the Adbhutam. He's like the of course, all superlatives, right? He says he's a great, and then he's also the absolute truth. When he says what is real, then this person is the only one who's real. Everybody else is actually not real, because nobody knows what is real, what is unreal. So there's only one absolute truth, that Brahman, and this is the absolute truth, that is the truth that is actually there. And is also the Sarva Bhuta. Everything that is there in this world is coming from one source. That one supreme consciousness is also the same person. So he's continuing with the answer to those questions. So Brahmanyam Sarva Dharmajnam Lokanam Kirti Vardhanam Lokanatham Mahadbhutam Sarva Bhuta Bhavodbhavam. Brahmanyam Sarva Dharmajnam Lokanam Kirti Vardhanam Lokanatham Mahadbhutam Sarva Bhuta Bhavodbhavam.
ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनं लोकनाथं महद्भूतं सर्वभूतभवोद्भवम् ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनं लोकनाथं महद्भूतं सर्वभूतभवोद्भवम्
ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनं लोकनाथं महाद्भूतं सर्वभूतभवोद्भवम् ब्रह्मण्यं सर्वधर्मज्ञं लोकानां कीर्तिवर्धनं लोकनाथं महाद्भूतं सर्वभूतभवोद्भवम्.
Next one. एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा. So the question of which is the greatest dharma, what is it that you have to always do? He says the greatest of dharmas that one can do on a daily basis, he says, is Pundarikaksham, this person who has lotus-like eyes. Aksham means eyes. So the person who has lotus-like eyes, so that person with devotion, right, bhaktya, with bhakti, everybody should praise this or worship this person on a daily basis with devotion. That is the absolute dharma one has to do every day. Whether you do other things or not, you have to worship the Lord with devotion, right? So he says that is the one dharma which everybody has to do. To the question of which is the greatest dharma, right? So esha me sarva dharmanam dharmo adhikatamo mataha. Like we discussed last time, that adhikatamo is coming, but that S symbol is coming. So you have to say the two words together. Dharmo adhikatamo mataha yad bhaktya pundarikaksham stavairar chain naraha. Is a chain naraha, you put is chain naras sada. एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा.
एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा
एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा एष मे सर्वधर्माणां धर्मोऽधिकतमो मतः यद्भक्त्या पुण्डरीकाक्षं स्तवैरर्चेन्नरः सदा
परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्म परमं यः परायणम्. She says, now this is answering the question of who do I seek refuge in, right? She says the person you have to seek refuge, he says, is the one who is paramam, who's, see, in Sanskrit, in a superlative degree, paramam is used when it is the highest. It's a superlative term, so there's nothing beyond it. So the person who has got mahat means intelligence or intellect, right? On tejas means effulgence, right? The tejas that we speak of, everybody. And then he's also the mahat tapaha, mahat brahma. He's also the absolute brahman. He's the conscious light that everybody refers to as the one light. All of this in superlative terms, he says it's the same person, and this person is also the yat parayana, means one refuge who you can surrender to and not worry about any intermediary, right? So because sometimes when you go and ask for help from somebody, they'll say, what, I have to escalate it to my boss, right? So you have to go up the chain. So he says this person is the highest, at the highest of levels, and that's the person best for you to seek your complete surrender, or your complete any request you have, you can completely surrender to this person. So paramam yo mahat tejaha, is it, put a f there, tejah. Paramam yo mahat tapaha, paramam yo mahat brahma, paramam yaha, put a f there, yaf parayanam. Paramam yo mahat tejah paramam yo mahat tapah paramam yo mahat brahma paramam yat parayanam.
परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्मा परमं यः परायणम् परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्म परमं यः परायणम्
परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्मा परमं यः परायणम् परमं यो महत्तेजः परमं यो महत्तपः परमं यो महद्ब्रह्मा परमं यः परायणम्.
पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मङ्गलानां च मङ्गलं दैवतं देवतानां च भूतानां यो व्ययः पिता. So the person is who's the most divine? That was the first question he said. Who's the most divine amongst everybody? So he says pavitranam pavitram. So anything which is the most what do you call pavitram, which is pure, right? So this person I'm talking about is the purest of the pure. Pavitranam pavitram. Amongst all the pure things, he's the purest. Among all the mangalam, amongst all the auspicious things, he's the most auspicious one. And then he is like we said already, Daivatanam Devatanam, Daivatam Devatanam. So all the gods, he is the god. And then he is the Yovyaya Pita, of everybody, he is the father. So we always say Brahma is the creator, right? So the sequence it works is, first there was nothingness, there was only Narayana or the Brahman was there, and from that Brahman, Brahma comes. And from Brahma only everything else comes. Nobody else comes before that, right? And eventually also everything goes to gets merged into Brahma first, and then only they all get merged into the Supreme Lord, also at the time of dissolution. So that is always the sequence that actually happens as well. So there are some exceptions, but anyway, so that is general sequence. So he says you are the sole father of everybody because everything has eventually come from you, and this little bit of that continues later as well. So pavitranam pavitram yo mangalanam cha mangalam daivatam devatanam cha bhutanam yo vyayaha. Is there, you have to say that word together. Yo vyayaha is there, put a f there. Yo vyayah pita. Pavitranam pavitram yo mangalanam cha mangalam daivatam devatanam cha bhutanam yo vyayah pita.
पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मङ्गलानां च मङ्गलं दैवतं देवतानां च भूतानां यो व्ययः पिता पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मङ्गलानां च मङ्गलं दैवतं देवतानां च भूतानां यो व्ययः पिता
पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मङ्गलानां च मङ्गलं दैवतं देवतानां च भूतानां यो व्ययः पिता पवित्राणां पवित्रं यो मङ्गलानां च मङ्गलं दैवतं देवतानां च भूतानां यो व्ययः पिता
यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि भवन्त्यादियुगागमे यस्मिंश्च प्रलयं यान्ति पुनरेव युगक्षये. So it continues there and saying, when the creation, when the first thing starts, where everything comes from this one soul, one consciousness, or this Brahman, where everything eventually merges into, is also merging into the same person. So the person I'm talking to is the beginning or the end, or I'm using he very loosely. So this Brahman doesn't have a beginning or an end, but everything else that has a beginning or an end is starting or originating from the same Brahman here. So yataha, so put a is, yata sarvani bhutani bhavantyadiyugagame. So that word you'll have to say it together. There are multiple words which are merged in there. So bhavantyadiyugagame yasminscha pralayam yanti punareva yugakshaye. So when they start again after the pralayam, it again comes from the same person and the cycle is continuing. Yata sarvani bhutani bhavantyadiyugagame yasminscha pralayam yanti punareva yugakshaye.
यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि भवन्त्यादियुगागमे यस्मिंश्च प्रलयं यान्ति पुनरेव युगक्षये यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि भवन्त्यादियुगागमे यस्मिंश्च प्रलयं यान्ति पुनरेव युगक्षये
यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि भवन्त्यादियुगागमे यस्मिन् च प्रलयं यान्ति पुनरेव युगक्षये यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि भवन्त्यादियुगागमे यस्मिन् च प्रलयं यान्ति पुनरेव युगक्षये.
And Radhagaru, that second line, first word, right? Yes means cha. That ish and cha both have to be heard.
Right. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Sure.
Stanza 12. तस्य लोकप्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर्नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पापभयापहम्. So now Bhishma is saying, I very quickly answered all the questions that you asked for, right? And there's only one answer to all the questions you asked, which is you have to completely surrender, pray, and worship that one person whose characteristics I've described. So he says, now I am going to describe to you now getting into the next step of details, right? I'm going to tell you the 1,000 names of that Vishnu. First he calls it as Vishnu, and later on he's going to say something else which will come. So he says that Vishnu's Nama Sahasram, 1,000 names of the Vishnu, I am going to now tell you, so you listen from me. Because once you listen to this, Shrunu Papa Bhayapaham, any sin and any fear you may have will completely get eradicated by listening to this 1,000 name. So I'm going to say the 1,000 names and you now listen, right? That's how we're starting here. तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पाप भयापहम्. तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पाप भयापहम्.
तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर्नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पापभयापहम्. तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर्नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पापभयापहम्.
तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर्नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पापभयापहम्. तस्य लोक प्रधानस्य जगन्नाथस्य भूपते विष्णोर्नाम सहस्रं मे शृणु पापभयापहम्.
यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये. Says this person's, this not like we said last in the first class, right? It's not like the Vishnu has only 1,000 names. Vishnu has thousands of names, right? But then, like we always say, there are top 10. What is the top 10 things you're doing, right? So similarly, he says that I'm going to now tell you the select 1,000 names which have been sung by Rishibhih Parigitani. The greatest of the rishis have sung these names. It's hand-picked 1,000 names, right? The top 1,000 names that I'm going to say. So I'm going to give you the hand-picked 1,000 names which are describing each of the name, which is describing the quality of the Lord that I'm going to describe about. So I'm going to say that for Bhute, Bhakshyami Bhute, for the benefit of the entire world, not just for Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira asked the question, but Bhishma says, this is my last thing that Bhishma is doing. After this, he's going to pass away, right? So he's saying for the benefit of the entire world, I will now describe the 1,000 names which describe the qualities of the Lord. So Yani Namani Gaunani Vikhyatani Mahatmanaha Rishi Bihi is there, put a F there. Rishi Bih Parigitani Tani Vakshyami Bhutaye. यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये.
यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये. यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये.
यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये. यानि नामानि गौणानि विख्यातानि महात्मनः ऋषिभिः परिगीतानि तानि वक्ष्यामि भूतये.
ऋषिर्नाम्नां सहस्रस्य वेदव्यासो महामुनिः छन्दोऽनुष्टुप् तथा देवो भगवान् देवकीसुतः. So anytime you say anything, there is always a rishi who it's attributed to. There is always a rishi who is the owner of this. And then they talk about the chandas, the meter of the script that is going to follow. And then it talks about who is the Bhagavan to which it is assigned to, who is the owner, who is the God to which you're saying this. So here he says very clearly, the rishi for this is the great sage Vyasa, Veda Vyasa. He is the rishi for this. The meter is Anushtup Chandaha, which is what majority of the texts are in the Anushtup Chandaha. So when you're doing a lot of other things, you'd say Anushtup Chandaha, even so that is a very common chandas, which is the how long it can be and all that, right? So that chandas is Anushtup. But the most important thing here is, up to now, Bhishma was telling, I'm going to tell about the greatness of this person and all that. And then he says, Vishnur Nama Sahasram, right? He says, I'm going to tell you the 1,000 names of Vishnu. But then the God, Bhagavan, he says here is not Vishnu. He says the Bhagavan is Devaki Sutaha. The Bhagavan is the person who is standing here, who is the son of Devaki, which is Krishna, right? So Bhishma essentially, what is finally is declaring here. It's coming from Bhishma, and this is, of course, a lot of people knew it also, and even Bhishma is declaring here that Krishna is as equivalent to Vishnu himself, right? Because he says, I'm going to tell you the 1,000 names of Vishnu, but the God for this is Devaki Sutaha. He's not saying the God is Vishnu. He's saying the God is Devaki Sutaha, which is Krishna. So Krishna is the God to which it is. So praying to Krishna or praying to Vishnu, essentially saying it's the same. They are the same two personalities, right? So Rishir. So this one, some books have Rishir Nam Sahasrasya. That is there in some books. Some books have Rishir Nam Sahasrasya. So we'll stick to the Rishir Nam. Okay. So if you have to make that edit, make it. So Rishir Nam Sahasrasya Vedavyaso Mahamunihi Chandonushtup. That you can say it together. Chandonushtup Tata Devo Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha. Rishir Nam Sahasrasya Vedavyaso Mahamunihi Chandonushtup Tata Devo Bhagavan Devaki Sutaha.
ऋषिर्नाम्नां सहस्रस्य वेदव्यासो महामुनिः छन्दोऽनुष्टुप् तथा देवो भगवान् देवकी सुतः. ऋषिर्नाम्नां सहस्रस्य वेदव्यासो महामुनिः छन्दोऽनुष्टुप् तथा देवो भगवान् देवकी सुतः.
ऋषिर्नाम्नां सहस्रस्य वेदव्यासो महामुनिः छन्दोऽनुष्टुप् तथा देवो भगवान् देवकी सुतः. ऋषिर्नाम्नां सहस्रस्य वेदव्यासो महामुनिः छन्दोऽनुष्टुप् तथा देवो भगवान् देवकी सुतः.
Okay, so we'll just switch halfway through the class. Padma, you can be a student, and Shalini, you can be a student. Okay. Amritam Shudbhavo Bijam Shaktirdevaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate. So again here, so this is like standard things that comes. You have to say what is the bijam here, who's the seed, and who is the where does the power of this reside, right? What gives the power to the mantras you're going to chant later, and what is the purpose of it? So you have to kind of standard declarations before you start saying these things. So here he says the bijam is the person who is born in the lunar race, which is now Amritam Shudbhava, which is who's born in the lunar dynasty, which is referring to Krishna here. And then the power of this is just in the name. You just have to say the name to get the power, because certain things you have to do actions, right? If you're doing homam, then you have to do the homam, right, to get the strength. Here he says you just have to say the name, and the power is in the name itself, right? And then he says the purpose of this is, where does it go? Yeah, Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate. Yeah, so the purpose of this is to attainment of peace. The main goal of this attainment of peace, because he says eventually you're going to get rid of your sins, you're going to get rid of the fear. So once you get rid of your sins and you get rid of your fear, you are more peaceful. So the outcome, final deliverable outcome on this is more like getting you peace. So that's so he's kind of defining all this before he gets into it itself. So Amritam Shudbhavo Bijam Shaktir Devaki Nandanaha. So even here he's saying now Devaki Nandanaha, son of Devaki. Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate. Amritam Shudbhavo Bijam Shaktir Devaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate.
Amrutam Sudbhavo Bijam Saktirdevaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantardhe Viniyujyate. Amrutam Sudbhavo Bijam Saktirdevaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantardhe Viniyujyate.
Amrutam Shodbhavo Bijam Shaktirdevaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate. Amrutam Shodbhavo Bijam Shaktirdevaki Nandanaha Trisama Hridayam Tasya Shantyarte Viniyujyate.
Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheshwaram Anekarupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam. He's saying Namami, I'm bowing to this Purushottamam, I'm bowing to the supreme person, right? Who is Vishnu, who is the great, like, he just goes on to praise. Essentially saying he has many forms. He is the, Daityantam, Daitya Antam. He gets rid of all the demons and all the evil forces, and who is the great creator and the Lord. To that Vishnu, I'm my namaskarams before he starts it. So Vishnum, Jishnum, Mahavishnum, Prabhavishnum, Maheshwaram, Aneka Rupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam. Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheshwaram Aneka Rupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam.
Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheswaram Anekarupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam. Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheswaram Anekarupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam.
Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheshwaram Anekarupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam. Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum Prabhavishnum Maheshwaram Anekarupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam.
Okay, so that's all I'm going to say for meaning, the first part of it. Now we're going to get into the actual Dhyana Slokam and everything. Dhyana Slokam generally is just praising the Lord. But before the Dhyana Slokam, it always, again, it talks about the Rishi, the Chandas, and a lot of other things. So we'll go through that first. So Asya Shri Vishnor Divya Sahasra Nama Stotra Maha Mantrasya Shri Vedavyaso Bhagavan Rishihi. So anytime you say Rishi, you have to touch the top of your head when you're saying that. Bhagavan Rishihi. Okay, the top of your head. Anushtup Chandaha. Chandaha means you kind of cover your mouth, the bottom of your nose, right? You cover your mouth. Anushtup Chandaha. Shri Mahavishnuhu is there, put a F there. Mahavishnu Paramatma Shriman Narayano Devata. So you just touch your heart. Okay, so that's it. 3 things. अस्य श्री विष्णोर्दिव्य सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र महामन्त्रस्य श्री वेदव्यासो भगवान् ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः श्री महाविष्णुः परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता
अस्य श्री विष्णोर्दिव्य सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र महामन्त्रस्य श्री वेदव्यासो भगवान् ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः श्री महाविष्णुः परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता अस्य श्री विष्णोर्दिव्य सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र महामन्त्रस्य श्री वेदव्यासो भगवान् ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः श्री महाविष्णु परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता.
Shalini, the Rishihi is Murdni, just on top, on the front, yeah, not back, front, yeah.
अस्य श्री विष्णोर्दिव्य सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र महामन्त्रस्य श्री वेदव्यासो भगवान् ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः श्री महाविष्णुः परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता अस्य श्री विष्णोर्दिव्य सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र महामन्त्रस्य श्री वेदव्यासो भगवान् ऋषिः अनुष्टुप् छन्दः श्री महाविष्णुः परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता
अमृतां शूद्भवो भानुरिति बीजं देवकी नंदनः, put is nandanas srashteti shaktihi udbhavaha. So like I said in Sanskrit, if a ksha is coming after the visarga, you have to say that visarga. So here you have to say udbhavaha kshobano deva iti paramo mantraha. Amritam shudbhavo bhanuriti bijam devaki nandana srashteti shaktihi udbhavah kshomano deva iti paramo mantraha. Oh sorry, I forgot to say bijam, you touch the right side, right shoulder. So bhanuriti bijam devaki nandana srashteti shaktihi, left side. Udbhavah kshomano deva iti paramo mantraha, middle. Okay.
अमृतां सूद्भवो भानुरिति बीजं देवकी नंदनः सृष्टेति शक्तिः उद्भवः क्षोभनो देव इति परमो मंत्रः. अमृतां सूद्भवो भानुरिति बीजं देवकी नंदनः सृष्टेति शक्तिः उद्भवः क्षोभनो देव इति परमो मंत्रः.
अमृतां सूद्भवो भानुरीति बीजं देवकी नंदन सृष्टेति शक्तिः उद्भवः क्षोभनो देव इति परमो मंत्रः.
Udbhavah, sorry Padma, Udbhavah, say it very, like you can pause there.
उद्भवः शूद्भवो भानुरीति बीजं देवकी नंदन सृष्टेति शक्तिः उद्भवः क्षोभनो देव इति परमो मंत्रः.
शंखभृन् नंदकी चक्रीति कीलकम शार्ंग धन्वा गदाधर इत्यस्त्रम. So sharanga is the bow, right? Sharanga dhanva gadadhara ityastram ratanga pani rakshobhya iti netram. So the eyes itself are so compassionate that the moment the Lord looks at it, it's filled with compassion. So that netram. Trisama samagaha, putta is there, samagas sameti kavacham. Shankabhrannandaki chakriti kilakam sharngadhanva gadadhara ityastram ratangapani rakshobhya iti netram trisama samagas sameti kavacham. Mute, can't hear you.
Sorry, so it starts from Kshobano iti mantra.
No, Shankabrin Nandaki.
Okay. Shankapurnandaki chakriti kilakam Shangadharva gadadhara ityastram Radhanga panirakshabhyo iti netram Trisama samagassameti kavacham.
Which one? Yeah, Rathangapani Rakshobhya. I think something you said different there. And then the first line, Shankabrin, the br.
Shankabrung
Yeah,
Nandaki. Okay. Can I repeat that, please?
yeah, go ahead.
Shankaprunnandaki chakriti kilakam Sangadan
Sharangadhanva.
Shangadan Dhanva Gadadhara ityastram Radhangapanirakshabhyo iti netram
That's right. Rakshobhya.
Rakshobhya. Okay. Rakshobhya iti netram Trisama samagassameti kavacham Anandam.
That's it. Yeah.
Sorry.
शङ्खबृन्नन्दकी चक्रीति कीलकं शारङ्गधन्वा गदाधर इत्यस्त्रं रथाङ्गपाणिरक्षोभ्य इति नेत्रं त्रिसामासामकस्सामेति कवचम्.
Padma Garu, that second one, you said Sharanga. It's Sharanga. It's Ir, not Ra. Sharanga.
Sharanga. Okay. शङ्खबृन्नन्दकी चक्रीति कीलकं शारङ्ग
Sharanga. It's like RN. Think of it as SHARN. Sharanga.
Okay. शारङ्गधन्वा गदाधर इत्यस्त्रं रथाङ्गपाणिरक्षोभ्य इति नेत्रं त्रिसामासामकस्सामेति कवचम्.
Anandam Parabrahmeti Yonihi. Rituhu is there. Put a is Ritus. Sudarshanaha. So put a ich sound. Sudarshanah. Kala iti Digbandaha. Shri Vishwarupa iti Dhyanam. Anandam Parabrahmeti Yonihi. Ritus Sudarshanah Kala iti Digbandaha. Shri Vishwarupa iti Dhyanam.
Anandam Parabrahmeti Yonihi Rutus Sudarshanah Kala iti Digbandha Sri Viswarupa iti Dhyanam.
Vishwarupa.
Anandam Parabrahmeti Yonihi Rutus Sudarshanah Kala iti Digbandha Sri Vishwarupa iti Dhyanam.
आनन्दं परब्रह्मेति योनिः ऋतुसुदर्शनः काल इति दिग्बन्धः श्री विश्वरूप इति ध्यानम्. आनन्दं परब्रह्मेति योनिः ऋतुसुदर्शनः काल इति दिग्बन्धः श्री विश्वरूप इति ध्यानम्.
श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम जपे विनियोगः. श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम जपे विनियोगः.
श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम स्तोत्र जपे विनियोगः.
Not stotra, just सहस्रनाम जपे.
सहस्रनाम जपे. श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम जपे विनियोगः.
श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम जपे विनियोगः. श्री महाविष्णु प्रीत्यर्थे श्री सहस्रनाम जपे विनियोगः.
Now we'll have a couple of dhyana slokams. So dhyana slokams means you're meditating, right? When you're saying it, and all of these dhyana slokams are all describing the form of the Lord. So whether you're saying it in Rudram, or you're saying it in Devi Matmyam, or you're saying in Lalita Sahasranamam, or here, dhyana slokam is always describing the forms of the Lord. And generally when these are, they are long 4-liners, so they're generally little tough ones compared to the rest of the things. So these 2 stanzas are tough. We'll do two lines at a time. I'll say the full 4 lines so you get an idea of the tune, and then we'll do 2 lines at a time. Dhyanam क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणि विलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां माला क्लृप्तासनस्तस्फटिकमणि निभैर्मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः शुभ्रैरभ्रैरदभ्रैरुपरि विरचितैर्मुक्तपीयूषवर्षैः आनन्दीनः पुनीयाधरिनलिनगदा शङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः. So we'll just do two lines, we'll break it. क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचि मणि विलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां malak lipta. So it's a l, like you say r, right? It's a l. Okay, so malak lipta sanastaha is there. Put a is there. Sanastas spati kamani nibhair mauktikair manditangaha. Dhyanam क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणि विलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां मालाक्लृप्तासनस्तस्फटिकमणिनिभैर्मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः.
क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणिविलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां स्फटिकमणिनिभै मौक्तिकै मण्डिताङ्गः.
So the two places shall in second line nibhair ir sound, mauktikair ir sound. So both places ir sound has to come.
क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणिविलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां मालाक्लृप्तासनस्फटिकमणिनिभैर्मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः.
The second line, I think you're still missing that sanastas. Lipta sanastas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणि विलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां मालाक्लृप्तासनस्तस्फटिकमणिनिभैर्मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः मण्डिताङ्गः. क्षीरोदन्वत् प्रदेशे शुचिमणि विलसत् सैकते मौक्तिकानां मालाक्लृप्तासनस्तस्फटिकमणिनिभैर्मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः.
Shubhrai rabhrai. So this one, see, Shubhrai rabhrai radabhrair upari, if you want to break it. So the ru that is there, if you want to break it, you can break it. Radabhrair upari birachitair mukta piyusha varshaihi anandi naha. Is there, put a f there, naf puniyadhari. So dhari nalina gada shanka panir mukundaha. So it's talking about, you having the mace gada and then the disc and the the lotus in one hand, the gada in one hand, the conch in one hand and the discus in the other hand. So Ari is referring to the discus. So to that Mukunda, or to that Mukunda, Mukunda means the one who gives liberation. Mukti, one who gives mukti is Mukunda. To that Mukunda I am meditating on. शुभ्रैरभ्रैरदभ्रैर् उपरि विरचितैर्मुक्तपीयूषवर्षैः आनन्दीनः पुनीयाधरि नलिनगदा शङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः.
उपरि विरचित आनन्दीनः पुनीयात् दरिनलिन गदाशङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः. शुभ्रैरभ्रैरदभ्रैर् उपरि विरचितैर्मुक्तिपीयूषवर्षैः मुक्तै पीयूषवर्षैः आनन्दीनः पुनीयात् दरिनलिन गदाशङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः.
शुभ्रैरभ्रैरदभ्रैर् उपरि विरचितैर्मुक्तपीयूषवर्षैः आनन्देनः पुनीयात् अरिनलिन गदा शङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः. शुभ्रैरभ्रैरदभ्रैर् उपरि विरचितैर्मुक्तपीयूषवर्षैः आनन्देनः पुनीयात् अरिनलिन गदा शङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः.
Just do one more and we'll stop. भूः पादौ यस्य नाभिर्वियदसुरनिलश्चन्द्रसूर्यौ च नेत्रे कर्णावाशाशिरोध्यौर्मुखमपि दहनो यस्य वास्तेयमब्धिः अन्तस्तं यस्य विश्वं सुरनरखगो भोगि गन्धर्वदैत्यैः चित्रं रम्यते तं त्रिभुवनवपुषं विष्णुमीशं नमामि. So namami means automatically I'm bowing to you, namaskaram, right? So this is actually part of the core of this is coming from the Rig Veda. So from the Rig Veda there's something called as a Purusha Suktam, right? Some of you might have heard of it, and then this also is part of it. Essentially what it at the net what it's summarizing in one line is, see, there are 14 different worlds or 14 different planes of worlds. Okay, so like world doesn't mean it's like earth is a world. It's like the earthly plane, which is bhu, bhuvaha, suvaha, mahaha, janaha, tapaha, satyalokam. There are seven up worlds and seven bottom worlds, right? 14 worlds, and each of them have multiple planetary systems. So in the in our description, the Brahmanda is the 14 worlds are described. All of these 14 worlds are supposed to be condensed into what is called as a Brahmandam. Brahma Andam means egg. Doesn't mean there's a physical egg-shaped thing outside it. It's not a physical thing. It's a virtual structure. All of it could be condensed in the egg, okay, which is called as Brahmandam, because it's saying all of this, when you kind of zoom out, it'll look like an egg shape. All the 14 worlds. So what all this Rig Veda and other things have done is they have tried to describe the Lord Bhagavan as if all these 14 worlds are him. So if I have to assign various body parts, right, they start saying your feet is the Patala Loka, your knee is this, your waist is the Bhuloka. So they start assigning various forms to it. So that is called as a Virat Purusha description, Virat Purusha Varnanam. So that form of the Lord is called as a Virat Purusha. Okay, that is because the Virat means the 14 worlds. So that is a most famous form. You just Google it, you'll see all the 14 worlds, and you'll see one person, one Bhagavan there, and 14 worlds in there. So this is actually saying, taking some portion of it and meditating on that Virat Purusha, which is extremely important. It says at the time of your death, if you can think about this Virat Purusha, then you're definite to get liberation. But it's hard when you're at the time of your death. A lot of other thoughts will go in your mind. But they say if you have to think of one thing, they say think of the Virat Purusha form of the Lord. So that is what this is condensed here. So Bhuhu is there. Put a F. Bhuf Padau Yasya Nabhir Vyada Sura Nilash Chandra Suryau Cha Netre. Some of these are obvious. Chandra and Surya are your netra, is your eyes. Karna Vashaha is there. Put a Ish. Vashash Shiro Dhyaur Mukhamapi Dahano. So the mouth is fire. Mukhamapi Dahano. Yasya Vasteyam Abdihi. If you want to break it. Bhufpadau Yasya Nabir Vyada Suranilash Chandra Suryau Chanetre Karnavasha Shirodhyaur Mukhamapi Dahano Yasya Vasteyam Abdihi.
भूपादौ यस्य नाभिर्वियद सुरनिलः चन्द्रसूरौ च नेत्रे कर्णावासा शिरोद्योर्मुखमपि दहनो यस्य वासोऽयमब्धिः.
Vasteyam Abdihi.
Is that Vasteya, sir? In our text it says Vasoya.
Yeah, Vasteya. Just change it to Vasteyam.
Okay. भूपादौ यस्य नाभिर्वियद सुरनिलश्चन्द्रसूरौ च नेत्रे कर्णावासा शिरोद्योर्मुखमपि दहनो यस्य वास्येयमब्धिः.
भूपादौ यस्य नाभिर्वियदसुरनिलश्चन्द्रसूर्यौ च नेत्रे कर्णावाशाशिरोध्यौर्मुखमपि दहनो यस्य वास्तोयमब्धिः.
Vasteyam Abdihi.
वास्तेयमब्धिः. भूपादौ यस्य नाभिर्वियदसुरनिलश्चन्द्रसूर्यौ च नेत्रे कर्णावाशाशिरोध्यौर्मुखमपि दहनो यस्य वास्तेयमब्धिः.
You do these 2 lines and we'll stop. Antaha is there. Put a is. Antastam. So it's 2 is sound has to come. Antastam. Yasya Vishwam Sura Nara Khagago Bhogi Gandharva Daityehi Chitram Ram Ramyate Tam Tribhuvana Vapusham Vishnumisham Namami. Tribhuvana, they're saying only 3 words because the 14 words are summarized into 3 words. That's what it is. So they normally say 3 words, but it actually means all the 14. So you can just repeat one time since we are out of time here. Antastam yasya vishwam suranara khagako bhogi gandharva daityaihi chitram ram ramyate tam tribhuvana vapusham vishnumisham namami.
Antastam yasya visvam suranara khagoga bhogi gandharva daityaihi chitram ram ramyate tam tribhuvana vapusham vishnumisham namami.
The third line kha ga go. Okay, the kha ga go. Okay.
Antastam yasya vishwam suranara khagago bhogi gandharva daityehi chitram ram ramyate tam tribhuvana vapusham vishnumisham namami.
Hari Om. We'll end it here. Kahena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrute swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanahyeti samarpayami. Thank you, everybody. See you all next week.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you.
Shankaranti.
Happy Shankranti to
Happy
everybody.
Pongal.
Pongal too, yeah.